making you take that kind of macro pop quiz where you would say, okay, I've turned up here unexpectedly. You have a couple of seconds to get a good answer, otherwise you're falling behind at the pace of the game. And feels like he's not really gone into that kind of style of play in his return here to Rogue. But of course, there are some other players which I'd like to talk about too. I think Adam, on the red side here for Rogue, I wonder whether they give him counterpick. Maybe we can see some more from him as well. Maybe that can lead to some proactivity, because it felt like BB with the Galio was absolutely crucial in that last game as well, alongside SkewMond. There's multiple parts feeding into the whole as we get through our bans. A lot of that top lane focus actually, both the Rumble and the Jace gone.
Well, we're really scared of the Yone. The Yone pairings usually with things like the Sejuani, the Zara comps. Bit weird. But I guess just to pick an isolation, especially maybe against Rogue, against seeing some of Larssen on the Yone already, is Varus is just let through, and Varus is the strongest AD carry I feel like in the patch. Lane, team fighting, range, like he has everything except mobility.
And build versatility. It's the big thing for me. You see a team that needs anti-tank potential, you go on hit. You pretty much anything else, you go towards that poke, and it's very, very hard to beat this in laning phase. You can pair it up with Renata if you're on the hit. If you're the on hit, you can prepare it. Something like the Nico as well if you want hyper lane dominance. Rogue in that Corki, so likely to be playing towards Corki. Rell could be quite good for the bot lane. Of course, it could be shifted into mid lane as well. Larssen, no strangers to that one, although he's had a couple of awkward moments on that too. Package at the fountain, I'm sure many people want to scrub their memories, but still, a player which has really thrived on that. I don't know why I mentioned that. A player that's really thrived on this in the past. And Malrang and Xin Zhao, that's exactly what VOD was asking for in the death. Completely agree with putting him on something that can force fights a little earlier, be a bit of a wrecking ball.
Maybe I was thinking something more like Nidalee, you know? Nidalee has a bit more punch to it, but this is like the interim. This is the in-between to take us to a game 3 as the G2. What does SkewMond head towards? I think SkewMond's versatility on junglers has been so apparent as well. I think Skarner's open. Yo.
I mean, I'd love that.
How much do you think you're going to win this game?
Dude, if he locks in any... Oh, come on.
Maokai priority.
You cannot hover those other actual interesting things and lock in the bog standard Maokai.
I'll be honest, like, probably unpopular opinion, Master Yi's not interesting. Master Yi is just like...
Okay, it is for the first time you see it in many, many years.
Yeah, and then you get used to it, like we got used to it with the funneling strat, and we're like, yo, I'm okay with not seeing any more Master Yi. Alistar
this is perfect.
Oh, good Sylas angle.
So bound to suggest this. The Corki goes down to the bot lane. You can now steal some of the top tier Sylas ults in the game.
True.
Alistar ult gives you that damage reduction, which of course means you can get into more of those W cooldowns and become unkillable for a little bit. So effectively, you have the Alistar Xin Zhao temporary tank frontline. Or of course, you want to start a fight, you take the Maokai as well. Really good lock in here. And you can ban away now on the second round of things. Some matchups which are worse into that Sylas. Tristana gone. Of course, the Yone, which can be a little bit spooky at points too, gone as well. Maybe you ban away the Akali if you don't like that side of the matchup. But if you're happy taking that into caps, you can always steal the Akali ultimate too if that's the matchup of choice.
Yeah, let's get more ZEKA up in here. Like, I want to see how Larssen goes on this pick because the skirmishing out of control already. And that melee mid jungle, as you said, Sylas has got so much to work with here that Renekton taken away. All right, they're starting to target Adam in the draft. Maybe more of these heavy skirmishing, these strong mid-game picks going to be targeted at Adam, who's the best out of Rogue.
Yeah, I mean, depends whether... I mean, obviously the Renekton strong laning pick and would give them a very strong top side to start off fights early.
They want Ambessa, don't they?
I wonder... That's a good point, actually. Yeah, very true. I wonder whether Adam just goes for a counter pick, though, in top lane. We know that BB has his own counter picks. You're always putting yourself at risk, even with a player doing as well as Adam in this split against BB.
Do you know what's really good when things run into you, which, I mean, argue with G2's comp? Volibear as a pre-counter into the Ambessa. I had been waiting, I think Volley's S tier.
Can't imagine which ERL team you've been watching that, buddy.
The thing is, I thought that for a while. Brom taken away in the end as well. If it was anything like LPL, I think they'd set up a Varus and solo lane and go for a misfortune, but not the case. Support engaged for Rogue leaving counter pick for Adam is obviously going to be the goal as they start looking at the options available.
I actually don't mind the Blitzcrank cover though, because you can steal the Maokai ultimate and use the Maokai Blitzcrank. Of course, into Alistar feels a little bit worse, right? But I think Rell, that's the easy pickup, something which all of our EU supports are very, very comfortable with. Good job does a good job of getting onto those backline carries like that. Varus, who's normally very, very safe. The Rell has flash, much less so. G2 will have to blind pick top lane for BB. He goes for Jack. Well, I mean, unless... Oh, no, that's definitely the case. Unless we get some weirdness of Jack's jungle counter pick into Xin Zhao, blind pick Maokai top. That's the other option, but I'd imagine that's the Jack top lane.
I mean, I like it already. You know, again, another mention. LPL is playing Maokai top. Actually, more so than
BB's
jungle.
played it too.
So, I'm not going to throw that completely out of the water, but let's just put all the cards on the table. We want to see none of this Azir Corki trash. Sylas versus Akali. It's what we all deserve, isn't it?
I love that we now have like this super long-range comp from Rogue in the last game, slowing things down, and you know G2 kind of taking their time a little bit to end the game. 4 melee composition from G2 with a lot of proactive ability. Last pick for Rogue. See what they want to pick into that top lane matchup. Adam, it's an old specialty of his, the Gold Champions.
Garen,
do we have it? Yes, we do!
Oh my god.
Garen's top lane.
You know, we have gone from complete front to back from Rogue, slow scaling, like seeing the Ezreal, Azir, this front to back, to now just sending it for Rogue, hyper skirmishing, melee try topside, all in, send it or die. At what, 25 minutes? I mean, it's not like it gets outscaled, Mega, right? Hey, where do you want to start?
8 melee game. We're going to be in the meat grind of so much of this. I think there's some really good volatile lanes. Jax versus Garen is a very flippy matchup. Jax needs to be very, very careful at specific points in the game to not get all in by the Garen, otherwise your game can just end. And if the Garen gets ahead of you, you can just continually trade onto you. Of course, your counter-strike doesn't work that well versus the bold spin to win. G2 do, however, have very good initiation opportunities with the Varus, who's going to have a good laning phase down the bot side. Hansama incredible in that laning phase. Now to a point which Rogue cannot afford to fall through. So, we'll see whether Rogue can pilot a more aggressive composition. That's what it was asked for, and they've delivered.
Well, for Rogue, no slow games. We get into this one, everything up front.
I mean, wait until the final Nexus falls. Bold sign there, friend.
We are only on game 2. Dragos backstage said it's going to be a long night, he reckons. That's Caps. Caps to win. Wow, Caps, you look so different.
You wanna hop on stage and play Akali? What's the feeling?
Little do we know that guy's challenger rank 2. Yo, shout out to him. Shout out to the couple that got married earlier, or at least they're dedicated to getting married because Team Heretics won. That was a big day. Anyone want to get married if Rogue wins a series? Not with me. Not with me. I'm married. But if anyone wants to put that up to each other, we'll organize something. MSI tickets are on sale. Oh my god, it's in Canada, guys. Big. I've never been to Canada. I'd love to go to Canada.
I aspire to have the excitement.
A nice sign. Now that's what we can get behind.
I don't know, what team's fan do you think they are?
He's waiting for KC versus SK. He's an SK fan. He's upset with the direction they're going in.
You know, I did think there was a brief moment where SkewMond would actually flex to the Jax jungle and go for the counter pick into the Shinzao, the Maokai top lane. I don't actually know Maokai versus top lane Garen matchup though, so a bit dangerous.
I mean, I think Maokai just survives everything and then just ultis every fight.
Yeah,
so.
yeah.
But we're going to see how it goes. Mid is obviously important in this matchup. We've got Electrocute versus Conqueror for Larssen here. Look at Adam with the phase rush Garen and Ignite top in a competitive game. That guy's running Axiom Arc, you can tell.
And this top lane matchup is why I was excited for this game, because I think that, you know, despite Rogue's ups and downs, and Adam has been part of that too, on an individual level in laning phase and his creativity, he has been someone that's been exciting to watch and can take some really good games from unexpected angles. That's why I wanted to see him with the counter pick here. So that E first, trades to that counter strike, BB taking an okay trade. This is, of course, the matchup we have to pay attention to now.
I mean, of course we do, but you know, it's just reminiscent for me. Excuse me. While we look at Adam versus BB, it does remind me of 2023 Worlds when Adam was on BDS and we got the gods.
Yes.
In the year of gods.
That's a lot of ones. What the heck?
It really is. Quick reminder as to why Adam's so hyped up and why, even though Rogue are a bottom tier team at the moment, Adam is hitting big numbers. Like, it's not even just the context of Rogue, in the context of the whole league.
And, you know, Adam's been given a lot of counter picks to do so. He's been investing in different matchups, which I like. I'm glad that he's someone that can feel confident enough to do that. Instead, BB walking up and getting demolished on tower, controlling the matchup well as it stands. He gets himself some plate gold with that. He stacks up the grass, becomes a little bit hard to play. I love this mid lane matchup too.
Yes.
When you have the Sylas versus Akali, even something like an Akali missing a single Q in an early trade and losing that energy in that passive trade can mean an awful lot. As you see right now though, casting very well against Larssen, trading on the Electrocute cooldown.
This is my kind of game. Observer, I never want to see you bot unless someone's dying. I don't want to look at bot lane in this game at all.
You know what's going to happen is, we're just going to see first blood and nothing else from bot lane.
Late context, because look at the solo lanes. Caps already. And Caps, by the way, here's Akali, best in the league. I'd stake my life on that. I'd stake all 30 years of it. Like, this is...
Happy birthday again.
Oh my god. Dude, imagine putting a 3 in front of the 0. That's just, where did the time go? Well, I can tell you, it definitely went into Caps' gameplay because that guy, I feel like, has been investing so much quality time into League. And Akali is one of those picks that domestically, I think a lot of mid laners respect him for.
Absolutely, and I think as opposed to perhaps some of the last seasons of play where it felt like if you picked Akali, you really, really had to be perfect on everything, and it was very easy to shut down, you struggled to get value. There's a reason why we're seeing players like Zeka and many other notable mids across the world are starting to pick up this champion again. It's because you can find those inroads in those team fights again and get some huge trades. Speaking of that though, Larssen, that E gets a great trade.
Maybe I talked him up too early. Malrang's here. Caps might have to burn the flash. Shield sets up, or rather wind becomes lightning. Caps going to buy some time with SkewMond in the area. A turn possible, but Caps, he hit a shuriken flip on a minion there. Not the cleanest setup to go back into Larssen.
And again, that's why we like this kind of matchup. One missed skill shot can make an awful lot of difference. And, you know, Larssen, of course, we typically view him as a mage player, but he's been through the Sylas Akali meta too, and he's been an aggressive laner for many points of his career.
Oh, hell yeah.
In their Renaissance, probably getting into a bit of a scary range there. Of course, the Ignite on Adam. So pay attention to that.
True. Judgment is starting to build up work as well as I assume it's first setup as Malrang's flashed on. Twisted Advance already used. Caps gets the shuriken flip and rather it's just Fan of Knives setting up the passive as well. Malrang in so much trouble. A Bramble smash and sets up to flip back in. Caps with first blood while Labrov makes sure Execute ain't nowhere near.
Doesn't miss that shuriken flip, and Caps Akali is off to a flying start. Gets that kill, still has his teleport, so he can teleport back in at the same time as Larssen, but with more gold in pocket as well. That is kind of scary from Rogue. I don't really know who deals with an Akali that well if they're ahead of the game. The Garen, of course, if you get very far ahead, can just press the Q spin and maybe execute them, but that's going to be pretty hard for Adam to do consistently, especially against Caps.
Here we go. This is why we don't look at bot, because meanwhile, Caps, he's almost level 6. When I say that, maybe half the XP bar now as the minion wave's clearing out. Larssen will be close as well. And the fun thing about mid is once they both hit 6, well, I guess it's whoever hits it first, right? Because they're just going to dive in.
And some really important stuff which is happening around that too is we are seeing just like a couple of wards on what you see some blueprints around there too. We had a ward on those Raptors, which means that Caps can play a little bit more aggressively, push up towards that level 6 mark, and of course we'll be having the grubs up in 30 seconds. If you get that extra information to play more aggressively in mid lane around those first objective spawns, can give you an extra angle to start to accelerate.
Well, meanwhile, look at the mini-map. Top laners are moving around. Hunt Summer's going to go up top and match for the time being because it looks like that BrokenBlade just doesn't want to be in that matchup anymore, and I get it. Again, we talked about the Ignite. Level 6 picked up on Adam as well. And
Garen has an ultimate. That's the problem.
We walk away from that, and when can I press E is... Caps might have to be a bit careful. Adam on the move. Spots him out now. Good Scry's plant as can do nothing but zone with Grubs now up.
Caps continue to have control over this mid lane. Always a little bit dangerous pushing up as a melee champion. SkewMond going on towards those Grubs. Doesn't have his level 6 just yet as well. Such a game-changing ability from that Maokai. It's such easy engage across the board. BB on the weak side of the map. Wave not really in his grasp right now.
Weird when you get stunned, but you still get the Q off, so he just moved. He just did the cha-cha slide to the ward.
Slide. My favorite animation weird pro moment. Season 5 Worlds, Victor versus Darius. I can't remember which matchup it was. Gravity Field Darius froze Darius midway through ult, which is the stretch frame. So you had a Darius about 3 times as tall as he should have been. Oh, yeah. Hilarious. I'm sure there are pictures of it somewhere.
I mean, janky, like, before I think season 7 or 8, the League of Legends, when it had bugs, they were janky. Maybe they still are. Dragon's going to be taken down. Adam just gets pounced up by Labrov. He'll be able to clear this wave fine. Remember, Adam's got courage. So he's able to take that lane, grab it by the cojones and just keep on, you know. 1,200 gold lead for G2 in the early game. Still, needs to be said that giving an Akali first blood and then also having the lane lead that you talked about, Nymaera, it's looking pretty green.
We are still in a situation though where Sylas could just nab an Maokai ult, nab an Alistar ult, and really start making some issue as well. Of course, it's always only natural to talk about Caps Akali, but Larssen on the Sylas, hang on hands, buddy, don't go.
Buddy, you're a Varus base checking, really relying on Labrov here as Execute. Engage not going to be pulled off. Hunt Summer just says go away. There's going to be a bit of help from Malrang moving down the lane, but outside of that, it's going to take a bit more working as Patrik just gets bopped, but that's all.
So clean trade of early objectives. Once again, both teams pretty happy to not skirmish that early, at least a little slower. Execute.
That's a trade. And Labrov doesn't have ulti, but again, Adam doesn't want to commit. Chains Corruption Flash. Execute in real trouble, and with that poke, that does miss. Unsummer has a bit of kill threat now with the Rectrix in hand.
Labrov, gotta be careful there, buddy.
You just keep pressing Q every time Adam goes in. This is a problem with Garen. Garen runs linearly. Okay, he just runs in a straight line. Alistar bops you away, presses Q, chains of corruption. Like, you either sidestep or you don't.
What's that sound again? Did he just list? Did you just go slightly to the left? That's all the maneuvers you've got. It's the only thing you can do, really. You know, his job later on will be to find an angle onto the backline somehow around the Maokai later in teamfight. You know, we joke about it, of course, in those kind of situations. Garen doesn't want to run straight at you because you just get to disengage. The power of him is coming out of a bush or coming off of a flank and then getting a huge combo in the duration of the silence, and that's when it becomes a huge issue. And that's something that Adam has been particularly good at. It's one of the reasons why he's one of the few Garen players who plays in the top level across the world. We have seen other people try and pick it up. In fact, you know, Irrelevant played it on BDS versus Fnatic last split in their playoff series versus them. Didn't work out so well. It is not. It is a simple set of tooltips to read. Does not mean you apply them in a simple way.
True. Just mesmerized by Adam there as BrokenBlade not going to get the stun up. Labrov's now back here. Trample going to be used, and again we talked about it. The flash is available for Adam. Not going to pop it, and even though he's trampled Han Summit, going to need a bit more damage than that. Poke comes through, but again, just remember that perseverance will come up, and as he gets more and more levels, it'll do more and more healing. Well, that mismatch of lane is still there, and Caps is still stuck in the mid lane to his detriment. Sorry, anti-detriment, let's call it.
No, to his detriment is worse.
Yeah, anti-detriment.
So it's to his benefit?
Yeah, that's English. A 1k gold lead.
So I've heard.
Bro, right. Caps is clearing mid at the moment.
Yeah, it looks like he is going towards Riftmaker first from those items. So a little bit more of the extended burn. Well, it's not technically burn from Riftmaker, but the increased damage over time from the Haunting guys. Wants to stick in the fight a little bit longer. On the other side, Rod of Ages for Sylas. This is a champion who I actually do like seeing Rod of Ages on. I think it was Whippo a couple of years ago actually was talking about one of the many times that Sylas was played top lane. How Rod of Ages changed the way that Sylas is played as a champion, because every single one of his abilities maxed out is incredibly powerful. It's not the case for all champions. Sometimes you max out, you know, a late game. I can't think of a good example, but some late game champions, their last max ability doesn't matter that much. Rod of Ages giving you HP scaling, of course, onto your W damage now as well. The extra experience does actually make a pretty big difference here.
It's a valid point. Let's see how much skirmishing there is, though, because Rogue drafted a comp that we're expecting to fight. They've got ultis available. Larssen, we talked about the hijack, then, you know, who he can take. SkewMond, Caps. Hell, you know, Han Summer's ult, Labrov's ult.
Yes, fantastic.
4 out of the 5 ults.
It's actually not a bad ult here to steal. The Jax is probably the least valuable because the Alistar is a better version of it. Oh, good trade from Caps.
Sure can flip as clean as anything. Yeah, Labrov moves in as well. G2. There's a chance of getting 6 grubs versus a Garen. I mean, that Garen, he wants some pushing power. This is rough.
And I mean, the thing is, when you have a heavy melee team, it's hard to use your grubs effectively, especially when now Garen's up to the point where he just wave clears for forever and whatever. Of course, you deny them from the other team, but the big thing is, if Rogue misstep now, and in game 1, they didn't necessarily play the macro out as well in terms of cross-mapping and in terms of denying G2 big plays on side lanes. If you misstep now, 6 grubs completely removes the tower in maybe 2 waves at this point. So that is an extra degree of difficulty for Rogue to work with. Important to be proxying here, by the way, because that means that no way is anyone getting to hit your tower.
Very true. I mean, BrokenBlade's going to walk up and take the wave as soon as possible. Adam doesn't think about proxying another wave. Must be good jungle tracking here because SkewMond is, Larssen just ran in. He steals the Alistar ult though. To be fair, it might be doable. Adam's also on the way in, and it could be a bait that G2 have to play with, but with Chains of Corruption, with SkewMond, infinite CC hack successful. Larssen has flashed out, Ignite has ticked over, and that TP, maybe in the end, wasn't the best. Dragon spawns in 5 seconds, and look at the health bar.
Exactly. No teleport, no flash. You've used your Alistar, and now BB maybe sees an angle.
He does indeed. Onto Adam. He's going to counter-strike that one and just bop him on the head. Ignite used from Adam, I think one of the first times this game, and Rogue love the comp, but in this early game, a couple of mistakes. You're 2,000 gold down, and you're about to lose the Dragon.
Yeah, so he makes a mistake there. Adam at half HP. Does he feel like he can't stay under bot lane right now? He's kind of sitting back from the wave. While this is happening, what were we saying? If you make a mistake against 6 grubs, a couple of waves, your tower's gone. Caps gets some great gold up here. He's over 1.5k ahead. Very, very fair to Akali because Rogue make a simple misstep, a slightly bad TP, and G2 very good at punishing.
And that Riftmaker isn't going back. He must be sitting on a lot of gold. So I'd assume Riftmaker, then maybe Sork Shoes, depending on what he wants to do. But 1,600, like, we're talking about Caps here on Akali. I'm also talking about a Garen lane that hasn't been able to abuse the lane. The good swap from G2 that came earlier on made sure of that, and never able to re-swap as Caps versus Larssen. This is going to happen again. Sure, it can flip, but remember, again, Rod of Ages is stacking up. Larssen at least has an item. Caps does not. He's 44 CS up.
Yes, that is...
Holy crap.
That is a number. That's at 13 minutes? Jeez. I mean, normally you expect this kind of lead to happen once you... pull the boss.
Adam's in trouble. He doesn't have an ignite for the lane, and BrokenBlade's in full ulti mode. He's smacking away. Every two is going to do the job as Trinity Force is making sure Adam does not get to play. BrokenBlade going to get the shove here as well. Remember, there's no TP on this Garen, so he's just going to have to wait and hope that he can heal up before the next wave crashes.
And this is not looking great for either side of the lane now. The Garen is not ahead of this matchup. The counter pick in top lane, which I thought red side draft was going to be very successful for Rogue, or more successful in that first game, hasn't led to much value right now. However, BB might have overstayed.
Maybe he can get the wave. Cannon minion is what I'm looking at here, but Adam might have an opportunity. Free ulti. Okay, it's a bait. Adam now the smart one in the books. He picked up his first kill in the game. Cap's going to be trading with topside turret.
Yeah, the leap strike cancelled out, well played by Execute. However, on the other side, the cross map comes through. 6 grubs means that two attempts at the tower. Caps will take that one. 425 gold, as if he weren't fed enough already. Has Leandris, didn't go for the Rift maybe.
Yeah, okay.
So he's gone towards the first of them. See what he builds up towards after that point. But G2, again, clean play around the map and around having these grubs.
It was Leandris and Fiendish Codex still in the inventory, so 2,300 is the gold, and yeah.
You hadn't finished the book yet, obviously.
No, obviously not. I think there's more to tell here as Hans Summer is face checking into Patrik. Patrik feeling confident about this. One chance corruption come out. Hans is going to barrier for now. He's got range advantage with Yomu's Ghost Blade, but the poke not going to land, and Patrik wins out on that one. Okay, just poke to clear the way for now. SkewMond gets into position. G2 are trying to converge on this, and Rogue, no, they need to back away.
Good angle there by Patrik. He's been on better form this split than we've seen for a little while from him. I know there are a lot of questions about his play in the last one. I think it's good for Rogue fans to see some moments like this, and a couple of their other games. His Ezreal, which was historically not his best champion. He had some great guns in that. Some other points. Of course, the last game couldn't carry them through to a win, but worth mentioning it all the same. If he walks into Adam, it's a Q.
Against BrokenBlade, he's still a little bit more confident. He's got Ignite now as well. Good little counter strike, and Execute coming in means we're going to rinse and repeat. Adam flashes down, even under turret. Execute will take it up. Shattering strike, and another kill. BrokenBlade jumps away. Judgment was not available. Let's call it justice, because that's what it would have been if Adam found kill number 2. Oh,
so close. Adam very, very nearly comping up again. Labrov has the minion taxi.
Yeah, this time, this is going to be an easy kill. Returned over to Execute. Hansama with Labrov's help lands on the CC. Adam's just trying to get something back. He's got Demacia Injustice up and available again to cut through the Unbreakable Will. He needs a bit more damage, but Adam chunked up, slowed down Hansama. Going to poke him to the ground. SkewMond's now made his way in with Patrik hovering. A potential 3v2 situation. Make it 3 with Malrang also on the way.
Such a heartbreaker for Rogue, though. Would have loved to get themselves a clean 1 for none there, but Execute goes down. Herald is spawning on the top side of the map. Rogue had chosen to make a bot side play and kind of forgo that. Now you look at everything that's happening across the top side. Herald has spawned. Rogue are moving up there, but they don't have the wards right now. G2 would like to set up a play. They can do.
What I worry about, though, Nymaera, is that this game is still in G2's favor. 3,000 gold lead, and even though we're seeing them play around Adam finally now and get this clock turning a bit faster, I mean, Adam's not that far ahead of a Jax, who we know in a side lane late is going to be such a pain. We also know that Caps in this game, along with the rest of the dive from G2, is going to shred their comp. Herald going to be started now.
Starting up now, and we did say, look, Rogue didn't have the best vision control around this. They put a couple of wards down. This is the moment where if Larssen wants to make an impact and steal something like a Maokai, I think this is the time to do. I don't think you want to give up a Rift Herald with 6 grubs, can you? I know they were behind on the map, but this feels like Rogue not contesting this. That's just going to be 3 mid-turret down. The map's going to open up. G2 get it for free, and they're very happy with that.
I like Rogue with the comp. I love the crafting. But when you get Rogue time mixed with this composition, it's not really Rogue time, is it?
No.
It's not a trick question.
Right.
I want Rogue time. You know, a little bit of buff. I want Rogue to really manhandle with this comp. But they're just slowly getting whittled down. Dragon stacking not really a thing either. 10 seconds till we find out if Rogue can start putting it in their favor, but resets come through. Caps now has the Riftmaker and TP. 2-item Akali rolling in at 17 minutes.
This is the Akali of your nightmares. If he gets any kind of angle and there's not an immediate CC onto him, pretty sure Rogue just instantly lose the fight. So Rogue needs to be hyper aware of that. But there comes a point, and again, this was said a lot on the desk before we came into this game as well, where Rogue still need to play proactively somewhere. They've struggled to be proactive, and I wonder whether they've given up a little too much. Patrik not at a bad point in terms of power. He's got the level 11 for the Rockets, but Rogue feels like they're really feeling timid around this.
They need Larssen to come through and make them feel a little bit more confident, I think. SkewMond not going to clear that ward yet, and it is completely dark apart from that one defensive ward. Like G2, you have a look. Okay, we can't see Dragon. Yes, we've got a ward in front of the pit, but it's a mountain rift. There's obstacles in the way. Herald that Nymaera was talking about before going to be used against the 6 scrub comp, and they're going to take Dragon. Larssen's up there having a tea party with the minions. Mid turret's gone. Dragon's about to drop as well because no one can step up to Caps unless there's 3 members.
But what is Rogue going to do about this? You have just lost 2 turrets, a Dragon here as well, and what have you gained? A little bit of time farming up all 3 lanes. Okay, that's fine getting towards that, but you need to make something happen at some point. You do have a 4 melee composition, which tends to signal the fact you want to play a bit more skirmishy, a bit more brawly, a bit more fast around the map. And I wonder whether now the timing, there is a timer on this game. You've given a lot of gold over to the other side. You haven't got the individual advantages, which I would like to see from this kind of composition. And G2, much like that first game, we were saying, look, that's the kind of game where you as a viewer might see it as a slow pace and stuff. If you're a G2 coach, you're largely pretty happy with that because I felt once they got ahead, there was no question about the game. I wonder if that's just going to happen again.
And I mean, props to G2. Like, this series so far has just been revitalization for our audience, the people at home, all kinds of viewers, seeing that one of the top teams in Europe is still a top team in Europe, right? Like, there were some questions after losing the finals to KC in such convincing fashion. But if anyone says that G2 aren't a top 2 team, if they're not one of the best teams, if not the best, depending on, you know, perspective about last split in winter, then I don't know what games they're watching, because again, it's clear night and day. Like, it might not be explosive League of Legends, but it is acting like incredibly clean League.
Right, G2 stacking up on the top side. Rogue have a couple of flank wards. I believe he could do something with that, but Larsen's currently on screen, and he's the one with the teleport. Rogue, Adam doesn't have that, so G2 don't have to be afraid of that much.
The wave at least gone, that's nice. I mean, Rogue's still holding their ground as a 4-man. Adam's moving up, here to match BrokenBlade, who's pushing out mid. You can see bot waves at a neutral state, but no closer to getting that turret where Atakan is, and BrokenBlade will just make sure that pushes to inner.
That play just there highlights a big problem of what Rogue are doing right now. They don't have the double TP. They can't do that second teleport behind them with something like the Garen who's got the ignite. Typically, the way that Adam has played side lanes as part of his career is... Hang on, Larssen is jumping forward. Caps should be fine here, so we'll be able to have more time to yap about this. I like having time.
It would be nice if he had SkewMond's ult, though.
True. That's a very good point. But typically, the way that Adam has played side lanes is by playing very obnoxious 1v2, 1v3 champions. Think about his... well, the Gods champs, the Garen, the Olaf, the Darius. They bring more than one person to the lane when you are ahead of the matchup. He's not ahead enough to make that macro play, and now he's behind enough that Rogue don't have a teleport top laner, and Adam really struggles to play the macro game. If he was stronger, maybe you would have to bring Labrov to the play, maybe you would have to bring SkewMond. That's not the case when you don't have a big lead.
Did you see there, because of 6 scrub, because of the might spawning, BrokenBlade still got the minion debuff on the turret, and he got demolished, and that's just a quick rotation of BrokenBlade. This is the problem that Jax as well, almost 2 items in the side lane. He's even against the Ignite Garen. The swap again from G2. Can't say how clean it was enough, as Adam's just trying to defend here, using Strikebreaker as best he can. The range from G2 being used. Maxstorm, no, finally, a fight is there, but Chains of Corruption. XQ's going to get wiped. Larssen TPs, but not a moment too late. G2 already away with the play, waiting for the next wave. Caps will zone. Broken down a member.
I mean, casually headbutting out of the combo that Labrov really well played to make sure that the combo from XQ doesn't really pin people in place in the way that he wanted to. And Rogue used the teleport. Now they have to fight in a single direction into this Atakan with Caps waiting in the wings.
And look at that TP as well. Look how deep it is. Caps is coming from behind. BrokenBlade, the Jax from downtown, from down away. A flash away from Adam, but the rest of the team are zoned down. It's a sick headbutt as Larssen will take the unbreakable will, but you got to watch out. Caps in the middle, even though he's low, he'll survive. Oh! He's just that strong, baby. G2, all 5 members stand tall, and while summoners go down, Rogue are getting nothing.
The Omnivan from the Riftmaker keeping Caps alive. They'll return to the Atakan. I don't really think Rogue have much to say about it. Feels like they have run out of ammunition all too soon.
They just keep baiting them in. I mean, G2 can turn once again. The health bars provide. BrokenBlade also now with the Sundered Sky, a 2-item Jax. They're going to commit to it. It looks like a 5k, but if you look at your clock, you'll notice there is no Rogue on it this game, or at least this series. Atakan down, GA's enabled. Dragon's up in 45, another reset for G2 to test the waters again.
Yeah, and now they can use that Atakan for the next big objectives of the game. I mean, G2, once again, textbook. They're playing towards the important parts of the map. And it hasn't felt like Rogue have many ways into it. I think that they have fallen behind in some important matchups. I think that Larssen maybe should have stolen that Maokai a little earlier into the game, maybe forced to play. I know that there is an aversion to making imperfect plays. We think, oh, maybe we don't have the perfect vision.
Yep.
I think with this kind of composition, compared to the last one, you don't have the luxury of waiting.
You gotta send it, right?
You have to send it, exactly. Labrov flashing the brush. Cool. Mini blink. But yeah, Rogue, it feels like they've wasted potentially some early game opportunities, and now G2 are just ahead of them with really good fights ahead of them.
And well, it was exciting to see the Garen from Adam today. Been lack of action, been lack of anything impressive so far, outside of that one gank, that one bait bot, but he's never run away with the game. You look at Larssen as well in this Sylas, constantly gapped in lane by Caps. And you look at him onto Malrang. We're going to get a 1v2 eventually, but Malrang, will he survive until then? The all-in with the rest of Rogue, Caps is probably just bored at this point. He runs in, GA popped, and Larssen takes the ulti. But my friends, you look at the rest of the map, mid's going to get pushed in, bots under pressure. Also, you only just took a GA. Caps has teleport to rejoin.
And it's against the 6 grubs. You commit four people top side, and G2 have 6 grubs in bot lane and in mid lane. The tower is going to completely go down. G2 are happy losing one withdrawal, one of that GA from the voracious Atakan, and they walk away with a better gold lead from it. It's not even like Larssen gets to keep the Akali ult for another play if he wanted to teleport. Well, he doesn't have to teleport, but if he wanted to make a play somewhere else on the map.
And look, if there's plays like that again where they think they've caught Caps, he's now got a Seeker's Arm Guard. So if G2 are nearby, that turns into a turn. That turns into a TP play once BrokenBlade has that up and available as well. Because as you said, Adam can't join unless he's in the vicinity. Feels like TP this game, I'll be honest, you know, would have obviously done more considering that Ignite has come through once or twice as Larssen Chain's Corruption sent out. It doesn't get the range and the thumbs are in the air. At least the optimism is high.
I mean, oh, hang on, BB.
He does still have GA, but 200 gold is 200 gold. Counter-Strike is out. It blocks the AD members, so BrokenBlade gets to leap over.
And while it's happening again, just look. I mean, G2 are completely fine to just say, okay, we'll push up top lane. We're going into the top side jungle. Rogue are losing vision. I mean, they go on to Jax for so long, they don't get much. He still has the Seekers himself if they'd gotten even more spooky than that. And now they have to walk around the long way. Potentially could have lost an inner turret there. G2 just holding Rogue accountable on the map.
I think we used the wrong emote. It feels like this right now for Rogue. that brush, this
Everything
area.
is lava! Your jungle is lava!
Everything's fine, they say. Well, Rogue at 6.5k gold down and trying to walk in towards a Baron that's now spawned, but a 3k gold lead Akali over the counterpart. As I said, Seekers is there. Seekers also there for BrokenBlade.
That kind of emote reminds me of... I wish we had the really bad bowling and bowling alley animations. It's like, wow, Dragon, we have like a really bad 3-polygon bowling pin.
Oh, true.
Sentence to the Abyss.
Something like from Wii Sports.
Yes. Oh, I missed that game.
Well,
that's the game. That's all I remember.
That's all I remember about it. Now I'm attaching it to G2. Because Baron, look, again, it's right there staring them in the face. Atakan has been done a while ago. The GA's at least expired. I truly wonder if Larssen can win this, but I think the answer's probably no. Double buffs there for BrokenBlade. Ulti for ulti. Let's have a go. At least we get to see some action. Larssen saw they're getting whittled down, and eventually the Sundered Sky will come back in, give him a bit more leverage. There it is. Larssen heals up with the Kingslayer, but BrokenBlade only 1v1. Labrov, go away. No one cares. Labrov! It doesn't count. BrokenBlade got the pawn. Labrov should be benched for that. Come on.
The blade might be broken, but the lamp's holding steady. 1v1 versus Larssen. That Sylas has not really had the impact which Rogue were wanting. He really needed to be a proactive playmaker, but they've just kind of sat on their laurels a little too long, and G2 just played the map better than them.
Just keeps happening, doesn't it? Now, obviously for legal reasons, Labrov should not be benched. Okay, ignore that.
Wait, did you say I completely blanked on
Of course I did.
Sometimes you just got
Labrov taking away the fascination of that 1v1. It's like people that steal pentas, you know? People that steal pentas, whether it's your ranked game, whether it's even in ARAM, like those people should have, they should get suspended for a little bit.
You gotta really watch your next words. They're careful what you're insinuating.
Don't worry about it.
It's your birthday, we allow you some fun.
The naughty people. For the amount of pentas I've had stolen by randoms in games. Right, you have been issued a warning. You steal a penta again,
Jake, before you're allowed to cast again, you've got to type in I agree on
I will. I think that's worthwhile. I speak the mind of the people.
Baron getting started up, man. G2, again, fighting really hard to just deny any sort of vision. Larssen does have teleport. He is on one side of the map, but they're not going to be anywhere close to it. And Rogue, much like much of this series, not really having an answer to it. They're farming, well, I mean, he is teleporting now. Half HP on the Baron. Do they really feel like they can force something now?
All right, Execute, show me the best support steal of a Baron I've ever seen. The Ents go out, they slow down, Larssen goes in, but Baron's gone. Now for G2, the fight begins finally, a team fight ensues. We haven't had one of those this game, but Rogue are losing it so handily. Han's flashes the back of the pit, and while Larssen looks to go in to find a target, he's in the middle of three. Hans is dicing, dancing between while the rest of Rogue have already run away. And to Larssen's credit, he does get a kill, but Caps is still healthy enough. On top of him, Shuriken Din. Meanwhile, BrokenBlade died to Adam, so props to Rogue. They sent it, they got a little bit of something, but Baron still on 3 members of the game.
And G2 have that Baron with the 6 grubs, and also get a bunch of kills before the Mountain Soul spawns. Adam jumps onto SkewMond, but I mean, it just hasn't got the power behind it now. Going to replay what happened at this. Great Maokai stops anyone from really walking in too far. Larssen just skip around it and gets good value out of the Alistar ultimate. This is what the Sylas can do in the mid and late game with his ultimate. So ridiculously strong, having that extra damage resistance, especially when it's leveled up to the 3rd rank of the Alistar ult, because the Sylas is level 16. Maybe, as we see a little bit later, potentially goes a little bit too deep onto that one, but we'll just say that one.
Nice one. I love it. Justice. Hell yeah. The most satisfying Garen ult are the ones where you just walk, you do nothing in the fight, you didn't even damage BrokenBlade, you just press R. Yeah,
it's like same kind of vibe as the dubstep Ignite, where you just walk up, press Ignite, walk away, that's your kill.
Yeah, some Garen ults like shake the screen. You know, I think that the God and
the God King.
And the Darius one also, I think they shake the screen. You have to turn it off in settings, which is a tilter to find anyway.
There are some of the ones which get pentas, like the Samira one and the Pike ones, they get pentakills because there's no enemies to disrupt their grabs at that point. Then they go absolutely well. BB pushing up a little bit far to mid lane, but he's free to do so. Of course, Baron buff onto 3 members of G2. They'll be happy to push out most of the map, use those 6 grubs to crush down the last resistance of Rogue.
Labrov waiting in a bush though. Adam probably didn't expect that, but Labrov just disengages and zones off because you look at top, they're going to go for the turret. There we go. Demands injustice again. All right, G2. Maybe not as safe as you thought in this game. BrokenBlade at half HP. Rogue get another.
Forgets that Alistar ultimate doesn't stop true damage in this engage coming through.
Yeah, but there's a Chains of Corruption and Execute's in harm's way. SkewMond taking enough, and now that Nature's Grasp is out with a good Bramble Smash, he disengages but over the wall. Malrang follows up until BrokenBlade runs in himself. There's no more justice available as Execute is a free target. Patrik now pounced on as well. The Zonya's coming in handy as BrokenBlade meets with Larssen. He's rejoined in with Abscond Abduct mid-air. BrokenBlade still wants to take it, but he'll die too. G2 are playing with it while Caps is thinking about his entrance, but Rogue are getting something in this game.
While all this was happening, Caps was pushing bot lane and did take the inhibitor turret. It's going to be the ult miss from Larssen again. Okay. He's tried that a couple of times. It's been a long time since it was the most missed skill shot in League of Legends back in those early years for the game. But G2 taking it in turns to maybe go a little bit too far. Some gold going over, and that's less what you want to see from them because first game they're so good at closing out the game without giving up silly kills like that. Rogue will definitely take them. Of course, the gold lead is still ridiculously high, but that 3-0-1 on the Garen. Adam will, with that level 3 ultimate as well, continue to go around the fringes, see if we can get more kills like that. And I don't know, maybe we can get 37 minutes.
Yeah, let's see how far we can take this to say that G2 is limit testing, having fun. Until the point when maybe Rogue wins another one of those and you're like, hang on a minute, even with Mountain Soul, Baron, Elders are right.
That's not a joke anymore.
Yeah, we stop laughing, we start getting concerned, but at least in a turret in top of G2 brings us to the peak of reality, which is that G2 are now going to move to 8K. They've never really let go of that gold lead. In fact, it's still growing.
G2, of course, starting to build up some of their empowered boots now as well. The Swift Marches on Hans Sama. Haven't really had much chance to talk about Hans Sama. I have to say, the thing about Hans is that he's so consistent for G2, but he's often just the engine when you've got the more flashy BB and Caps. Sometimes he falls into the background. I think this guy's been fantastic, obviously, in this series, and his Varus is going to be very hard for Rogue to consistently get on top of, too, with the Ghost Blade and those boots moving speed.
I mean, consistently having up your summoner as well, because G2 aren't that forced, so it makes it hard. As you said, Hans Sama always behind Labrov as Labrov just hex flashing over to see who's there. But BrokenBlade goes back to the side lane. So another slow game, another Baron. I mean, we might question how the Elder goes as well, but 90% of the map is still G2's.
That being said, you know, obviously G2, huge macro advantage. Yeah. Well, huge advantage, full stop. We don't have to talk too that much about that one. damages. Yay, big numbers, cool. I mean, actually, Patrik, not bad numbers there, considering he gets to poke Varus, so I'll credit him for that one. But now, Rogue at this point, down a lot of gold. They are against the Mountain Soul. That kind of sucks to them. They do still, however, have, you know, multiple items for both carries, highlighting the Lord Dominator regards there for the Corki. You have the Death Cap, obviously, for Larssen as well. And it doesn't matter how far... Hang on, he's using the Maokai. That's... if he walks out of that one, swing and a miss.
Yeah, but at least sending out the ulti style is big. I mean, he's 3,500 gold down, so seeing something out of Larssen in this game is still a bit of a breath of fresh air. Baron's up in 45. You've all waited for this. Waiting to see G2 put the spike on the ball, put the ball in the net. I played tennis. Hit the ball with the racket. Ace. to ace Rogue. I mean, it's in the name, isn't it?
I suppose so, buddy. I'm just going to let you do your own sports thing. Sports ball!
To score a goal. We play sports. We don't care who knows it.
G2 pushing in, of course, again across the map, and Rogue have very rarely had vision across the board. G2 not getting the easiest way to crush into the towers out the Baron is spawning. When you have heavy melee compositions, it is quite hard to push into towers in the traditional way. Malrang, though,
sneaky
enemy lines.
Caps is lensing to the right. Hunsummer and Labrov are isolated here. As they step up to the wave, Malrang thinks about how he can go in without making it too inconspicuous. Patrik and Execute are nearby, but Malrang waiting for the target. Caps, he spots out a ward, sees Malrang as well, and the player's gone.
No obvious target. Of course, Caps with 3.5 items, including the one of them being the Seekers. Pretty hard to close him down. However, if Hands was out of position, if something else would happen. Teleport into the top side of the map. BrokenBlade has Hysterics now for even more survivability. Elder in 40 seconds, though, so we may well have an objective trade if Rogue want to slow this down. But the Baron is being forced by G2.
G2 doing this pretty fast. BrokenBlade zoning one side, Caps the other. SkewMond ready to turn. Nature Scratch is sent out, and Adam not going to be caught by it, but you see G2 forget the Baron looking for the fight. BrokenBlade jumps in, and Larssen will steal the Unbreakable Will, but a good Shattering Strike set up with the Magnet Storm from Rell. Hunsummer engaged on the backline by Larssen, but Execute's already dead before they can help out, and once again the Compass 3. Larssen, it worked last time, but they're stronger now. A double meanwhile by Caps and BrokenBlade chasing down the final pieces of Rogue. Adam taking enough to deal with BrokenBlade, I say that, but over the wall and over again. Adam is running, but he's got no friends under this turret. This will be his last call, and BrokenBlade, he's going to take care of it all. 16-5 in the end. He might run forever, but G2 with a 2-0 is what you can take away from this perfect ending series.
A little bit long on the time, but never really in question. Rogue were out macroed, and G2, their coaches will be very happy with how clean the closeouts were.
Yes, they will indeed. G2 still on top, still looking good. Here in the LEC Spring, 3-0. Not dropping a single game at the start of this all.
Never really in question, was it? Maybe a little bit slow at some moments.
Yep.
Something to tighten up there, but realistically G2 played out the compositions the way that they were meant to be. I think Caps played absolutely fantastic.